Right.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Ainam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayat. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Hare Krishna. We're reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 18, entitled The Battle Between Lord Boar and Hiranyaksha. It's February 6, 2020. We're on text 2. We're in text 2 of Chapter 18, and we have a verse written on the board. I don't know if it's visible on the internet, but maybe. And okay, so we'll start with the Sanskrit words responsible. Didarsha, Tatra Bijitam, Daradaram, Puniyamana Vanim, Agra, Damstraya, Ushnantam, Akshna, Swarucho, Aruna, Shriya, Jahasa, Chaho, Bana, Ucharo, Miga, Darsha Chatra, Pitam Daradaram, Yamanabanim Agradam Straya, Vishnantam Akshna Swaruchoruna Shriya, Jahasa Chaho Vanagocharo Miga, Darsha Tatra Vijitam Daradaram, Puniyamana Vanim Agradam Straya, Ushnantamakshna Swaruchoruna Shriya, Jahasa Jaho Vanagocharo Miga, Darsha Tatra Vijitam Daradaram, Puniyamana Vanim Agradam Straya, Ushnantamakshna Swaruchoruna Shriya, Jahasa Chaho Vanagocharo Miga, If anyone else would like to recite the verse.
Tatra
Vijitam Daradaram, Puniyamana Banim Agatam Shtrayam. Mushnantamaksha Swarucho Nashriya. Jahasa Chaho Vanagocho Miga. Yadarsha Tatra Vijitam Daradaram. Koniyamana Banim Agadam Shtrayam. Mushnantamaksha Swarucho Nashriya. Jahasa Chaho Vanagocho Miga.
Tatra Vijatam Dharadharma.
Yadarsha Tatra Vijitam Daradaram. Puniyamana Banim Agadam Shtrayam. Mushnantamakshna Swarucho Nashriya. Jahasa Chaho Vanagocho Migam. Yadarsha Tatra Vijitam Daradaram. Puniyamana Banim Agadam Shtrayam. Mushnantamakshna Swarucho Nashriya. Jahasa Chaho Vanagocho Miga. Would anyone on internet like to recite the verse?
Yadarsha Tatra Vijitam Daradaram.
Yadarsha Tatra Vijitam Daradaram.
Niyamana Vanim Agadam Shtrayam.
Puniyamana Banim Agadam Shtrayam.
Mushnantamakshna Swarucho Nashriya.
Mushnantamakshna Swarucho Nashriya.
Jahasa Chaho Vanagocho Miga.
Jahasa Chaho Vanagocho Miga. Yadarsha, he saw. Tatra, there. Avijitam, the victorious. Dara, the earth. Dharam, bearing. Puniyamana, being raised upward. Avanim, the earth. Agradamshtraya, by the tip of his tusk. Mushnantam, who was diminishing. Akshna, with his eyes. Swarucha, Hiranyaksha's own splendor. Aruna, reddish. Shriya, radiant. Jahasa, he laughed. Cha, and aho, oh, Vanagotra, amphibious. Miga, beast. Translation. He saw there the all-powerful personality of Godhead in his born incarnation, bearing the earth upward on the ends of his tusks and robbing him of his splendor with his reddish eyes. The demon laughed, oh, an amphibious beast. And so today's the anniversary of the Prince Day of Lord Varahadev. So there's several chapters in chapter 3 about this, and looking at one verse. Okay, so purport by Srila Prabhupada. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In a previous chapter, we have discussed the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Varaha, the boar. While Varaha, with his tusks, engaged in uplifting the submerged earth from the depths of the waters, this great demon Hiranyaksha met him and challenged him, calling him a beast. Demons cannot understand the incarnations of the Lord. They think that his incarnations as a fish, a boar, or a tortoise are big beasts only. They misunderstand the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even in his human form, and they deride his descent. In the Chaitanya Sampradaya, there is sometimes a demoniac misconception about the descent of Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu's body is spiritual, but demoniac persons consider the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be material, just like ours. Avajananti Mamuda. Persons who have no intelligence deride the transcendental form of the Lord as material. Okay. Om Ganatimi Randasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuvaniditam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamrupa Kadamayam Darati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Taparakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatanvikam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Vadan Sagana Lalita Sri Vijakanvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vachikapati Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Paitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Disha Karine Vedarshatam Shabijitam Daradaram Puniyamana Bhagimagradam Straya Mushnantam Akshna Swaruchoruna Shriyam Jahasa Chahovana Gochomika. He saw there the all-powerful personality of Godhead in his boar incarnation, bearing the earth upward on the ends of his tusks and robbing him of his splendor with his reddish eyes. The demon laughed. Oh, an amphibious beast. This is spoken by Maitreya to Vidura, as narrated by Shrimadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, as narrated by Sutta Goswami to Shankarishi and the sages of Namisharanya, all described by Srila Vyasadeva. Yeah. As in some places, like when we get the seventh canto, like it's a few more layers. So the whole context can get a little complicated, but where better to absorb our mind to understand complexities than in Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam, it's described Yigama Kaptura Galikampalam Shukamukara Mitravi Samatam. But the Bhagavatam Samalayam or Hurasikapo Bhuvi Bhavukam. This is the ripened fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literature. And although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, its nectar has become even sweeter because it's being tasted and shared by Shukadeva Goswami. Sarva Vedic Yasanam Saram Saram Samudrita. The Srimad-Bhagavatam, it's the cream of the Vedic literatures. So the Bhagavatam, it's more important than the original Vedas. It's specifically given to us by Srila Vyasadeva to explain the original Vedas. If we just read the original Vedas, we won't get it. So one thing, so some translation. So Prabhupada is using the term demons, so we can see this as some sort of archaic language, So, okay, so we can probably pretty easily look in ourselves just very practically, and we can see we might find some devotional tendencies. We can find some devotional godly qualities. We might find some non-godly qualities. We're pretty shortly out of the foundational seminar just 3 days ago, so we might find We might find some grunges in our heart. We might find some less than pure motivations. We might find some subterranean criminal desires. Yes, like that. So that's what's when we see terms like demon, demoniac, or sinful. It means that, whether that thought, that emotion, that activity that alienates the self from the self. That thought, that desire, that activity, that emotion, that state of mind that moves us further away from God consciousness. So that's demoniac, that's sinful. And that which moves us closer, then that's healthy emotion. That's healthy emotion. Just to give context to these terms, so we don't hide behind judgments because, oh, this language seems very archaic. So, okay, yes, and so this chapter is described, it's entitled Battle Between Lord Born Here and Yaksha. So Srimad-Bhagavatam, it's supposed to be a spiritual literature, the high spiritual literature. So what's all this about battles and clubs? This seems pretty gross, crude stuff. Like okay, these like gladiators. How is this spiritual? Okay, so before japa, we were talking a bit. We chanted around together, and we made the point that negation of matter is not spiritual. It can be a foundation to cultivate spiritual, but like okay, we can say, oh, it's dancing, eating, relating. That okay, well that's material, so I'll give that up. All right, but spiritual life means we discover and engage in singing, dancing, eating, communicating, relating. Even romance and violence has its place. So in spiritual life, but the spirit, the janmadhyasa yata, what exists in the effect, must exist in the source. So if we have variety in personality and color, then that must exist in God, in the source. Sometimes, right? It can be asked. So you believe that God is blue? Snicker, snicker. You're some sort of non-scientific, non-progressive, uneducated person. So yes, I accept God is blue. What is that blue? That I don't have realization of. What is that blue? You believe God is a boar, like a pig? Yeah. No, let's look at this. Okay. So Prabhupada's making the point here. Avajanati mamudam manushintam ashuta. Mama Bhuta Maheshwar Param Janato. That okay, so spiritual form, we don't get it with our material eyes. We won't, just like spiritual sound. And by giving ourselves to this process of looking at spiritual form, hearing spiritual sound, then we Atashi Krishna Namani by an indra. Sevan Mukihi Jiva, starting with the tongue, Svayameva Sprati. That by engaging in this bhakti yoga, then we purify our senses. We develop the eyes of knowledge. We develop the vision of knowledge. Just like with our senses, we might see the sun as a circle in the sky, a yellow circle 3 inches in diameter. That's how maybe a 2-year-old child, that's what the sun is. But we see with the eyes of knowledge. We say, oh, it's not a circle 3 inches in diameter. It's this great stellar body, million times greater in volume than the earth. So we see with the eyes of knowledge. Similarly, as we practice this process of bhakti yoga, including observing ourselves in Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna, we begin to not see the body. We begin to see, this is a spirit soul inhabiting the body. And this is the platform. This is the platform of peace. This is good. So this bhakti yoga, it's not a process of elimination, it's a process of transformation. Serving the spirit soul, serving the supreme soul with love and devotion. This is the eternal activity of the living entity. So however fallen we might be or feel, however disconnected we are, Prabhupada makes the point, there's never a disconnection. I'm disconnected from God. No, we're never disconnected. we forget that we're connected. It's a distinction. We forget, just like a person sleeping, completely connected with the room and the people in the room, but he's forgetting. He's thinking he's this person in the dream who's being chased by the tiger or flying like a bird, forgetting that I'm in this room like that. So this is a process of jiva, waking ourselves up to engage in the eternal activities of the soul. And that's where we're satisfied. That's where we're peaceful. That's where we get relief from lust, envy, greed, material anger, like that. And there's also spiritual envy. There's also spiritual lust. That's the science of devotional service. So, yes, yeah. So, Prabhupada's giving the point of how we can understand these truths, and the process given is this process of devotion. Just like, okay, these are the Vedas. Veda means knowledge, and so there's Vedic scholars. There's Vedic scholars. The Vedas describe very clearly how we can understand what's here. And the process is bhakti. The process is devotion. It's like, because we're conscious entities, the process to know each other is not some detached analysis. Right? But when we gain each other's love and trust, then we choose to reveal ourselves to each other with more and more intimacy. So gaining love and trust. So that propensity comes from Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Right? So the Vedas say, here's how you can unlock this mystery. And so the so-called Vedic scholars, if they say, oh, well, it won't be objective if I actually participate in the process. And then in one sense, that approach is discounting the Vedas, because the Vedas say, here's how this knowledge will be revealed to you. And we're not willing to participate. It's just like, look, you're only going to get this through experiential learning. Dry, so-called detached. It's never detached, objective. Well, in one sense, we can say that like the methods of modern science are objective in the sense that such methods are meant to study objects. They're meant to study dead objects that are inanimate and have no consciousness. Okay, all right. But what if, right, so it's like it's not designed to study subjects, like a subjective person. It's not designed to study subjective consciousness. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Evayam maya tedya yoga prokta praratana bhaktosya me sakachiti rasyam yetarutama. He says to Arjuna, I'm revealing this to you. Why? Not because you're the greatest Vedic scholar of the age. Man, Arjuna is a warrior. His occupation was being a military person. Krishna says, because you're my devotee and you're my friend. So we follow in the line of Arjuna, follow in the line of Srila Prabhupada, perfectly in the line of Arjuna. And we become friendly towards God. Kind of the whole statement, the whole stance of material existence, it's an unfriendly, hostile statement towards God. So like here we have like Hiranyaksha, and again it could seem primitive, like he's trying to kill God with a mace, with a club. Okay. But essentially, so I will kill God by my clever philosophies. It's the same idea. It's ridiculous, it's absurd. It's the same idea. Or I'll take it a step further than Hiranyaksha. I will just say, this person, God does not exist. The Supreme Person does not exist. The Supreme does not exist. There is no God. And then, of course, yeah, those with that stance, actually, they're meditating quite a bit on the Supreme Person, because I've found many of them spend a lot of time, talking about this person who doesn't exist and like that. So, okay. Well, we can understand just by logic. It's like this pretty simple books fan. If we think, how did it come into being? The wind blew and then just it came together. No, there's a designer, probably an engineer, might even be a factory, a wood shop. There's some intelligence behind this. So then, okay, so say the veins in the leaf, or the intricacies of the human brain, or the rotation of the planets, it's trillions of times more complicated in its structure than the wood stand or the watch or even the computer. So therefore it's logical that there must be an intelligence much greater behind the intelligence than this book stands. Okay. How do we get to know the person behind nature? Oh, I love nature. I love nature, I'm attracted to nature, and that's a natural question. It's like, you have your nature, I have my nature, you have your nature. So wherever there's nature, there's a person. Wherever there's intelligence, there's a person. Whose nature is it? So this is the real platform for, so it's important to give if we want to understand what's happening here, it's important to serve with love and devotion under the guidance of an expert, under the guidance of a master in this process. So we're fortunate that Srila Prabhupada, he's come to us and he's given us this transcendental knowledge, which is revealed to us as and part of the service is to apply our philosophical intelligence. That's part of our service. Yes. So there's a book by Kant, the Western philosopher, Critique of Pure Reason, meaning reason can take us so far. Right? And then through reason, we can understand there's a transcendental, just like to use the virtual reality or video game analogy. Okay, so in the virtual reality, there's trees, and there's rivers, and there's people, and there's activities, and there's battles, and there's houses. Okay, right? So we get, oh, look, get your head out of that thing. This is false. Okay, all right. But there's real trees. There's real trees, and there's real houses, and there's real relationships, and there's real adventure. Okay, so similarly, there's a whole world related to this material body, right? There's this whole vast world, and this is just the virtual reality. And then so it makes sense that for that spiritual spark that is us, that irreducible quantum consciousness that inhabits the body, whose existence is not dependent on the body, for the spiritual, there's a whole world. Even more than there's a whole world outside of the virtual reality game for the player field. Come on, go to the real tree. There's real sky. You don't need to be in this machine. This is Yatrudhanimaya. This is the machine made of material energy. So, okay. So it makes sense if we talk about the pastimes of the Supreme, that it would be inconceivable, as we often say. Okay, so like this birth incarnation, it's many chapters. It's ideal to read today. That's why we're reading from 18th chapter, 3rd canto, rather than Bhagavad Gita or 2nd canto, because we're focusing on the Varaha incarnation. So if we look at the history of this incarnation, at the dawn of creation, the creator of the universe, Lord Brahma, noticed something coming from his nostril, and it was a little pig. There we go. Thanks for the sound effects. It adds completion to the whole thing. Yes. No. Really. Okay. So, and then the pig and the demigods were like, "What's this?" Because the whole earth was the whole universe was being destroyed and disturbed by Hiranyaksha. Okay. And then there's incarnations of God in the form of a beautiful woman, and God in the form of a fish, and God in the form of Lord Brahma prays, there's hundreds and thousands of incarnations like Ram and Varaha and Vamanadeva and Korma and like that. And even the greatest Vedic scholars cannot unlock the mysteries here. So we can say, well, I don't believe all this. Well, okay, so okay, here we are. We're persons, and we have our activities. We have our adventures. We can all narrate our life adventures. Okay. But as far as the supreme person is relegated to be a light bulb, to be just the shining white light. That's all. No, we have activities. The supreme person must have activities that are even more amazing than David Wolf's activities. Imagine. Okay. Yeah, right. So we can say, yeah. So it makes sense to me that the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Lord Varahadev, would be, like trillions of times more far out than any Hollywood plot. I mean, that actually makes sense. That actually makes sense. And so basic logic, like you believe God is blue, you believe God in the form of a boar, God in the form of a beautiful woman, God in the form of a tortoise who has an itch on his back that he needs to scratch.
Tortoise they're like that. They like scratching.
Yeah, exactly. So there are different forms for different functions. So this board, it's not random, it's for a different particular function that God appears. So we can say, okay, all right. So we have forms and we have personalities and we have activities. So how can we deny that to the Supreme? How can the Supreme be less than us? Yet God is unlimited and all powerful and omnipresent, but he can't have a form, activities, or personality.
Maybe we jealous of this.
Maybe there's what's going on in our heart that we would go there. Exactly. Okay. God can have a form and a personality, and he could, but even if you look in the Old Testament, right? So God appears to Moses as a burning bush. Why not? Okay. Why not? And if he's in the mood and he has an inspiration to appear in the form of Matsya as a fish, well, why not? Well, no, he couldn't do that. He couldn't. So you're limiting God. Let's all make lists of things the unlimited God can't do. Let's all make lists. All right. Well, I'm sure he wouldn't appear in the form of a boar. I'm sure he wouldn't appear in the form of a cowherd boy who enjoys playing the flute. Okay. You're sure? Okay. So, where did that appear to you in a flash? Was it the burning bush who told you that he wouldn't appear in the form of a blue cow? Yeah. Where'd you get that information? So here we had revealed information of the pastimes of God. And by absorbing all this discussion of the nature of the Supreme can be premature. Because first, let's look. Oftentimes, these discussions, they can be skipping the foundational stage. The foundational stage sometimes is, okay, apart from your conception of the Supreme, the Absolute, the Divine, who are you? What's your conception of self? Who are you? What? Are we this body? So, Srimad-Bhagavatam, this is the sequel, this is the follow-up literature to Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapter, 700 verses. Concise, streamlined, no wasted words, and it gives the most sublime transcendental knowledge. Starting with who we are. Vasamsi jirnani atavi haya, navani vinati, naro parani tata, sharirani vihayad, jirnani, anyati samyati, navani dehi. Krishna says, as a person discards old garments and puts on new ones, similarly the soul discards the old and useless bodies and accepts new bodies. So we're that spirit soul that continues on. And just like we have clothes that we discard, so these bodies will become old and useless. Not this body. So we treasure these bodies, but these are it's like the car. It's a vehicle. So the self. So who are, and so this is the ABCs of spiritual life. We're not the body, we're spirit soul. So what's the function of spirit soul? To serve God with loving devotion. Creation is a name for God, the all-attractive personality of God. Does anyone have a better idea about who we are and what's our natural eternal function? If so, I haven't heard it. I've been asking that question. Because like, well, to be a Hare Krishna and to practice Krishna, that's crazy. I actually got kidnapped for taking a stand, and this is what I want to do. I actually got kidnapped back in 1984 by my parents, who both were chanting Hare Krishna at the time of death, about 40 years later. So it's a happy ending. 30 years later. Okay, but that's kind of like, yeah, much what I do and my convictions, they're based on questions I have. They're based on what seems to make sense, and then questions about why it doesn't make sense, and then no one gives a good response to those questions, so I just stick with it. And the more no one gives a good response, then the more deeper conviction I have. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita gives a clear conception of who we are and who we're not. Do you have a better idea? Do you have any, what's the flaws in this conception? Have you heard it?
We're nothing.
Nothingness. Okay, so who is it? Who is it that just now communicated to me? We're nothing. Yeah.
The supreme nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. So I've certainly heard the nothing philosophies, and they're just not satisfying for my intellect. They don't do it for me. Okay. So. Okay. So then this is the platform of peace, understanding. This is the platform of brotherhood and sisterhood. Without this, it's sentimental. Brotherhood and sisterhood. Right? Yeah, we're all children of God, and we're spirit souls. We're not this body. Otherwise, three examples we get. And I can't. There's like just here, including our internet, we have about 10 bodily nationalities represented. Yeah, very. Americans are definitely in the minority here. It's Leah, Brielle, and me. That's about it. Rebecca, there we go. So we say yes. So this conception of even though you're French and I'm American, and this one's Serbian and this one's Czech, and the Swiss and the British, the French and the British, the Israelis. Oh my God! Even though, yeah, even let's not even go there. Yeah. So even though, and you're women and we're men, and even though I'm of this political party, you're that, and I'm this race, we can still get along in harmony. Wrong. Never works. Never will work. Never will work. It's an important point. Never will work. Because we're starting with illusion, just like, let's say if we have a 10-step mathematical equation, even if we know the steps, and we're starting with the wrong number, it's supposed to be a 7, it's supposed to be a 3, not a 4 and a 6, it won't work. So if we're starting with the illusion that I am this car, that I am this set of clothes, that I am this body, if we're starting with this illusion, then there's then there's going to be a fierce, ugly competition for limited resources to gratify the body, the gross body, or the subtle body composed of desires for profit, adoration, distinction. So the actual the actual platform for peaceful, harmonious coexistence is understanding. I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. This body's like a car. I guess this is the actual. What's in 1999, I wrote an article that was published in the January 2000 issue of Social Work, which is the biggest, most respected journal in the field of social work. Anyway, so the article was entitled Social Work and Speciesism. And I started the article, I did the research. I happened to be in North Carolina conducting some seminars, some child protection stuff. And I had like a day before to get back on the plane. So I went to the library of North Carolina University or Duke or somewhere. And I found that the mother of modern social work, her name is Jane Austen. And she started like in Chicago in the 1860s. She started a project called Whole House. She's like the mother of modern social work. Anyhow, so Jane Austen, she was an aristocratic American. Like her family was very wealthy. So she was on vacation in Spain, and she didn't need to work. She was on vacation in Spain, and they went to bullfights in Spain. And then she was just horrified. she was just like horrified. Like this was enjoyment. And, we're in Spain in bull faith, and like the way they were treating the bulls, and she was just like, and somehow, so she was just like this like selfish, affluent, rich enjoyer, and then she like her whole life was changed by seeing how they tortured the bulls. I'm like, why are we doing this? And then she dedicated her life to help people and not just be a frivolous person. And she's the mother of modern social work. Okay, so then what's relevant? So I read that and I was like, I was very moved by that. I wasn't much moved by much of social work literature, but the story of Jane Austen very much moved me. Because then I looked in all the databases, and it was like, I'd say card file, few computer files in those days, like in the late 90s. But I looked in all the psychology, and there was nothing in the social work literature. So I wrote nothing in the social work literature about treatment of animals. And the reason why it's particularly significant is because social work, that is the bastion of like, we're against racism and we're against sexism and down with nationalism. I mean, it is, right? I mean, that's like the place. And there was just nothing about speciesism. So I started my article, was Jane Addams just mentally unstable? Was she just had a distorted, well, maybe Jane Addams had something to teach us more than what we're getting. And then the article is called Social Work and Speciesism. Because they even go like, yes, I'm a humanitarian, not just for my nation. Well, a humanitarian. What's so special about the human species? Because I'm human. I'm a humanitarian. And of course I have dead cows on my plate for dinner. So if we, in the foundational course, we give that example, like putting the one in front of the string of zeros. And the one is self-realization and bhakti, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We do that, then actually like wooding the root of the tree, all the branches, twigs, and leaves, they're all nourished. So we translate that to all the genders, all the nationalities, all the species, all the races. Everyone's nourished when we surrender our life under proper guidance, such as the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, to self-realization in the form of bhakti. Darshatra bijitam daradaram puniyamana imadvedam shtraya mushnantamakshna svautoruna shriya jahasataho vanakuchuga. He saw there the all-powerful personality of Godhead in his born incarnation, bearing the earth upward on the ends of his tusks and robbing him of his splendor with his reddish eyes. The demon laughed. Oh, an amphibious beast! Hare Krishna. Thank you for your presence. Thanks for your attention. I welcome at this time if there are any comments or questions.
I got one, two.
Ramachandra.
Should I turn?
Yeah, turn the video towards yourself. That's the idea. Thank you.
Hello. So you were mentioning Kant, and it's touched me with the virtual reality because some of my friends who are gamers, like that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
I met them in London, and they asked me to reflect on that. How is that related to our spiritual nature, our desire to go to deep ourselves into another virtual reality if we're already in another? Because spiritual life means you're already in a virtual reality. So why are we going to another virtual reality by the games, or like they have all kind of gadgets now for that?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Okay, well, I mean, I'm not sure if I completely understand, but yeah. So virtual reality is it's a great metaphor for Maya. Richard Thompson Sadhguru wrote a book, Maya, the world is virtual reality. In our Power of Bhakti book, we have a chapter, Maya, the ultimate virtual reality. Yeah, and so it's a great metaphor. It's brilliant, and that we identify with these characters in the game. So I think there's a new diagnosis in psychiatry. People just get addicted and like they really lose their identity like that. But there's a real reality out there. Okay, so to get that, like, well, I'm not in a virtual reality. No, I've got my job and I've got my house. I've got my friends. I got my romantic relationships, and I've got my financial struggles, and now And this is all dream world. This is all dream world. So before the invention of virtual reality, this was in 1983. Remember that it was the day after 3 years of taking prashad. I went to a program and Stamba tricked me to chanting around a japa. Stamba Das, he was leaving the State College preaching center. And then anyhow, so I was walking out into the Penn State University and State College University Park, Pennsylvania, and I was walking in the parking lot with him because he was talking about how this is all dream world. This isn't our real life. This is all ephemeral. We're just playing these games. So I said, okay, so you're a Hare Krishna. That's just another game. That's just another game. And I'm getting my college degree game, and I'm the chairman of the Free University game, and I'm going to backpack around Europe. Okay, you're Hare Krishna. It's another game. Mm-hmm. I was very not humble with that. And then Stamba, we were in the parking lot, and then he looked at me and he goes, this is the real game. We can appreciate, yeah. This is the real game. And that's earlier in the class. That's why I said that, okay, so we identify with these different temporary dream bodies. This is real. It's real, but my conception of it is illusory, right? So this energy is real, but if I think I am the body, that's illusion. Even if I think it's my body, this is God's energy. So our conception is big. So what does the soul do in full enlightenment, in full realization? The real game of the soul, the real game, is to engage 100% enthusiastically in devotional service to God. So that's not virtual. That's not virtual reality. That's the real reality. Mm-hmm. Everything else is a concoction, is a virtual reality.
So if I understood correctly, the tendency for gaming or going to virtual reality from the virtual reality we now is that your body is to misidentify ourselves with whatever we are considering ourselves to be.
Yeah, I like how you say that. That's the okay. The whole material existence. This is our tendency to run away from who we really are. Mm. So then the tendency towards drugs, or let me play. Actually, the word pinball keeps coming to me because in my day we played pinball. And then just as I was leaving the States in '83, there was the beginning of games like Pong and Ms. Pac-Man, things like that. But now it's very sophisticated, I understand. But so that's just it's just putting on layers and layers. So our tendency is to run from who we really are as spirit soul servants of Krishna. And then we want to put more layers on the illusion. We went even further, then that takes the form of let me identify with this Dungeons and Dragons character. Let me take some hallucinogens. Okay, so it's just I want to put more layers on the illusion but that's the basic tendency, rather than turning to who we really are as blissful spirit souls engaged in very active. It's a very dynamic piece. I was never much into poetry, but there was one poem I really liked by Edgar Allan Poe, and the poem was a bit of a dream within a dream. So we can say, and I was thinking maybe he was influenced by the Vedas, but so this whole thing is like a dream of Vishnu, and we can participate in our own dreams. So this whole reality is it's a dream within a dream. It's a dream within a dream. And then, a dream, what's that? So again, the energy is real. How we perceive it is false. No, we don't need to say, because just like someone's having a dream. So they're having a bad dream. They're being chased by a monster. They're having a good dream. They're flying like a bird, or they're being treated like a king or queen. In one sense, it doesn't matter, right? Because you're just lying on the bed horizontal. There's not much joy and fulfillment in any dream, good dream or bad dream. So to really help the person, it's not to support them. Yeah, you're flying like a bird. You say, wake up to your real life. Mm. So that's what Bhagavatam is urging us to do. That's what Prabhupada said. Wake up to the real life of the spirit soul. and that's bhakti.
It doesn't seem that the gaming or like identifying with character is different than what people do or what we do all the time. Like, okay, identify with character and virtual game, or identified as a getter, like I'm part of the team, or I identified as a Democrat, or I identified as a.
It's not much different from.
It's not very different. We identify as a woman, as a man, as a whatever.
It's the same.
Identification there is with sport team, or it's the same. Inequality is not very different. The form may be different, but people will say, well, it's not the same to be part of going to the game of the gator and be a gator fan or being a Democrat. They say, no, if you're a Democrat, it's really serious. To be a gator fan is not. So it's also the same.
Or the Gator fans might say, to be a Gator fan is serious. To be a Democrat is not. It depending on where we're absorbed. But even you gave the sports analogy, so that it's a game. We're absorbed in it.
People are so absorbed in games. In Europe, the kids it shows because the identification is so deep that if there is something going on between two teams, Spain and France or something like that, then there is death. There is death because of identification. So there's just the tendency is there. Yeah, tendency is just there to want to forget Krishna and identify with matter, and then dive deeper in identification with matter, because we are by trying to control matter and not being able to do it, then the desire to belong somewhere is increasing and increasing and increasing by our defeat.
Rebecca.
So the idea of Krishna as a bore, or what is the coming out of the nostril?
Of the forehead Brahma.
Forehead.
Yeah, what nostril of the forehead?
Oh,
Left, right, of the first head.
But just those kinds of far out things that I've had such a hard time, like this is I mean, a really hard time believing that like this is because it sounds
too far out.
Yeah, it sounds too far out to really
accept.
Yes. And when you were sharing, I had this moment of connecting with. So the other night I was reading and the Bhagavad Gita, and I had this moment of feeling like I was connecting with, like it was like I had this moment that Krishna's revealing him. He revealed himself to me.
Yes.
And so when you were sharing that, I thought Krishna is revealing himself all the time in different kinds of ways to us. And it's so I'm just thinking, my mind is I'm so limited in this little in my position. I'm such a limited being. So it's like, and I'm not at the same time, but I'm really connecting with that part of myself that is so small and limited that, of course, my little small mind is not going to be able to imagine or like really believe that, this spore is coming out of this nostril but it's obvious that Krishna will reveal himself in a way that maybe is, if we're listening, if we're present, and
if we're receptive,
that he'll reveal himself in a way that can, integrate or can be understood by us, so that we can receive it in our.
If we don't meet us where we're at,
and
inspire us to progress further outside of our illusion into understanding him, and he's giving us that opportunity constantly. I appreciate your sharing, Rebecca. Just at the foundation of your sharing is you're in the habit of reading Prabhupada's books, and you're giving yourself to that. And and you're getting realizations that maybe you couldn't imagine getting a few years or a few months ago, and it's just coming from being steady in that habit, chanting Hare Krishna and reading Prabhupada's books.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And something else that came to me was that really, like, how the word is like arrogant of me or something, to think that that can't happen. Like that, oh, that can't happen. Like, really? Like, it's God. It's God. Yeah, what?
You want to limit God?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's it. Prabhupada gives the frog in the well analogy. You know that one? Are you familiar with that one?
I'm not sure.
Frog in the well. The idea is, okay, so a frog's in its well, which is whatever, 3 feet in diameter. And so another frog who's been to the ocean is trying to tell the frog in the well about, no, there's a Pacific Ocean. So the frog is like, so what? It's like a foot or two bigger than my well? No, you don't get it. No, it's not like a foot or two bigger. It's like, no, it's like that. It's just like, okay, so it's like twice the size of my well. No. And then because the frog's very proud of its well, and so it's like, it actually blows itself up, it bloats itself, and then it's in its arrogance, it actually explodes from its arrogance, because it can't conceive, or another version of that is, again, the frog in the well. And like that can look, okay, the sky, what is the sky? It's similar to the sun analogy we just, what is the sky? Yes, the sky is a circle that's a few inches in diameter. As it looks up, that's the sky. And just says no conception that the sky is just this unlimited vast thing. So that's it. That's humility. That's humility to get like, I'm limited. I can connect with the unlimited. I can be open, and the process of that is through serving the unlimited. And that, just talking with Leah recently about the pastimes of Sanatana Goswami. So Sanatana Goswami was seen as a very amazing, smart person. He was powerful, practically the prime minister. And then when Sanatana Goswami first approaches Lord Chaitanya with a straw in his mouth. And he says, Kayam Kanimaya, Jaya Tapachaya. He says, people think I'm great, and he knew 6 languages, and very wealthy, and like that. But he says, yeah, I don't even know who I am. And please guide me. Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita thought he had it all figured out. And then and he says, Kapanya dosha patasva bhava pichami tvam dharma samud cheta yatrayashyan nishchaya bhuitan nishishastayam sadimam from Prabhupada. He says to Arjuna, he says to Krishna, now I am weak and I've lost my, now I'm lost and I've lost my composure due to weakness. In this condition, I ask you, please instruct me. He's approaching the unlimited. And so that takes humility. And so to realize how arrogant I am is the beginning of humility. Thank you, Rebecca.
I appreciate when you were speaking, like we have so many activities, we have a whole world around us, our friends, our family, activities, or whatever. And like you were saying, like what is in a source is in effect.
Yeah.
But also, because those activities kind of are empty, they seem really empty. Yeah. There's not much fulfillment or not much even meaning to them if they are separated from Krishna. And to be in that consciousness of like there is unlimited amount also. It's like the frog. Yes. Like to the degree of the Pacific Ocean of activities that are available to me. Yeah. Like unlimited amount of activities and relationship and possibilities and beauty. That's right there available to me if I wake up from my dream. Yeah, we can appreciate the beauty of the material energy. We can appreciate, but then, like you're saying, if we want to open up to the vast Pacific Ocean, then it means to stop being enamored by material beauty and the illusion of that.
stop being enamored by material activity, engage in bhakti, and then spiritual activity. The variety is infinitely richer. And that's not to say that like this world, this body is beautiful in a sense, like how Krishna creates nature. I mean, it's beautiful, and spiritual nature is unlimitedly more beautiful, enriching, and fulfilling, and alive, and shining. So it's,
And the really striking was the frog. I never heard at the end that it exploded at the end. And I'm really curious to, like, because in Czech, like we say, like if someone is arrogant, it's like what do you call the process, the blowing the balloon? Like if someone is blowing to the balloon.
So if somebody can get them some sweet balls or something. Kim and Leah, thanks for joining us. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for coming. Okay, thank you, Leah, for bringing
What's the word when someone is blowing air in the balloon? What's the verb for it in English? Like if you blow air into the balloon, is that a word for it?
Into a balloon or filling up.
Yeah.
Well, probably use the term puffed up.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's just like there's like this common expression that like you are so like puffed up that you will explode.
Yeah.
So does it actually happen? Because it sounds like it really happens to the frog.
So sometimes, the harsher version of that analogy, Prabhupada does describe that the frog blows up. Now, whether biologically that really happens, I don't know. But at least in the story, the harsher version of the story. Prabhupada used that term, puffed up. So the frog, puffed up means I'm arrogant and obnoxious, and I think I'm much greater than I am. So that's like the frog gets so puffed up, it bursts.
Interesting. And then I was appreciating how we were like speaking about like the service, we can understand Krishna and Shavuot is giving us instruction, but I'm still reading them. And I'm like having like actually from the foundational seminar, I have a realization how like Prabhupada is writing the books for me personally, and then like for everyone else personally too. But really when I'm reading it, it's like reading it as he wrote it to me personally. Because every time I read the same thing, I always see something different. Because like it's just like it really strikes me that it's so personal. It's not like like this is like books for next 10,000 years for millions and millions of people. No, it's like for me personally. And then
A very personal relation with Prabhupada through his books.
yes, so I wanted to share that because I think it's quite exciting.
It is quite exciting. I think on Monday there were some graduates of recent foundational from another part of North America, and before getting on the plane, they stopped here. They were excited about bhakti, and I taught them to chant. And when I teach people to chant, I sometimes say, I love all parts of my life, and the part of each day that I'm most looking forward to is chanting my 16 rounds of japa. But it's actually not true. The part of each day I most look forward to is time alone with Prabhupada's books. I think it's like very personal.
Yeah, it's like a dialogue. Like the latest books is like a dialogue.
Yeah.
Like there's like questions and responses. It's so alive. So.
Thanks for sharing that, Nisha. I think there was a comment on the internet.
Yes, Hare Krishna, everyone.
George. Hare Krishna, George.
Yeah, I really appreciated Ramachandra's comment about where he mentioned like kind of gaming and like the illusory world of gaming. And I just wanted to share just some kind of anecdotal experience. Is that I'm finding from having played video games for a lot of my life is that the most successful games out there that really kind of engage people where they lose they lose themselves for hours and hours and hours. I've actually found that draw heavily from Vedic scripture as far as a lot of the stories, a lot of the plot lines, a lot of the ideas that are most attractive to the imagination and most appealing. It's like they're based on truth that is written in the Srimad-Bhagavatam or the Vedas, and I find that is such an interesting way that I almost see it as like Maya acting in a way that really engages so many people. And specifically games like World of Warcraft, which I think maybe 2 years ago had something like 17 million active accounts. You know, I think about going on Sankirtan, and sometimes I think of myself as going on Sankirtan when I load into that game, because we talk about going to the park or going somewhere on the street and reaching maybe dozens of people, just exposing the name of Krishna to them. But, you know, logging into one server, into World of Warcraft, and, you know, sharing some kind of philosophy can reach hundreds of thousands instantly. And so I find it so interesting in terms of the idea that it's so far out, you know, because yes, I feel like it's interesting that Maya has not, I say Maya, but it's interesting how these game developers have utilized a lot of Vedic knowledge to kind of capture people's attention and draw them in. But at the same time, I feel like because they've done that, because they have used a lot of these stories and things that seem almost like beyond this world, I feel like these gamers are almost more open to the idea of God being a little pig that comes out of the nose. You know what I mean? Like they're almost, because they've been so there's like
they're so immersed in fantastic imagery.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, it's almost easier for me, kind of having that background, to make analogies to like the real thing. Like sometimes I'll say, just like, you know, this planet on this game has a personality, you know, our Earth also has a personality. Her name is Bhumi, and she's a servant of God. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, because they've drawn so heavily into capturing people through using a lot of these that I'm discovering myself through reading, you know, Srimad-Bhagavatam, it's almost easier for these people to kind of bridge that gap and almost like wake up. I don't know. It's just some kind of anecdotal experience that I'm appreciating as I'm reading more into Srimad-Bhagavatam and noticing the parallels that that developers are using to get people's attention, but that could also be, you know, an advantage in bringing people back to Krishna, back to God, especially these people that have, you know, have been delving so deeply into these narratives and virtual kind of plotlines.
Thanks for sharing that experience and perspective, George. So I'm hearing Krishna can certainly use that technology to bring people to be open to different perspectives that are real reality. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm always curious about like, I think there's in Bhagavad Gita, maybe Krishna says that he appears in every species of life.
It's in Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
And like, doesn't mean like in every one of the 8,400,000?
Based on my reading, I would say yes.
Okay.
You know, that there's at least 2 or 3 places in the early cantos of Bhagavatam that between the verses and purports, yeah, that's what it seems to me. So, I mean, some of that I don't even want to think about. But again, for sure it's described that the number of incarnations is more numerous than the waves of the sea. And it's said that in all the 8,400,000 species, Krishna incarnates. So there's Krishna as blade of grass, as squirrel, like that. So so it's like in the Bhagavatam, we hear maybe about 24, about 25 incarnations that we hear about. Some, you know, Nrsimhadev we sing every morning, Varahadev, and we have 1 day per year. But there's about 20. There's the Hayagriva incarnation in the form of a horse.
How about Krishna as a cockroach?
Well, that's what I did. I don't even want to go there.
It's not in our Bhagavatam. It's probably in the Domingo's Bhagavatam.
Yeah. So we hear about, so 8,400,000 species, incarnations more numerous than the waves of the sea. We hear about 24 of them, and that's certainly more than enough for our Back to Godhead program.
But our Bhagavatam is very limited. Even so for people of Kali Yoga, it seems so vast.
Yeah.
Most people are very intimidated.
Intimidated,
The
yeah,
Bhagavatam,
true.
and at the same time, it's a very limited Bhagavatam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's described in higher planets, and we have a 3,000 volume Bhagavatam.
It doesn't mean that like all these species of life, they have like a self-realization process too. Because I remember at the course, you were emphasizing how the human form of life is the only form of life that can go through a self-realization. But and that's kind of like a mental, I don't know what sounds sort of speculation, but if Krishna says a cockroach, so it doesn't mean that the cockroaches, they're like Archa Murti and they Arati.
Well, that's not my understanding so much. Of course, Krishna is making arrangements for the souls and all the species to advance.
Yeah.
But the general process, and there's exceptions, like there's the dog and Lord Chaitanya's pastimes who went, there's trees and Ramchandra's pastimes who went directly, that's exceptions. But for the most part, like we see Lord War appeared, but it's mostly humans who have some inclination towards bhakti that are appreciating Varahadev.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much like the pigs are getting so much benefit. So similarly, when Krishna appears as a fish, we in the human form, we get benefit from hearing those pastimes. It's not so much that the fish have sufficiently developed consciousness to get benefit. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Lord Varahadev ki jai.
Namo Krishna Krishna.
Glad you're having fun with this appearance day. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun celebrating that in Israel.
Yeah.